Hey everyone, welcome to The Edge of It All. I'm your host, Trey Edge, and I look forward to going on this journey with you. Each episode, I'll talk to guests of all walks of life, and I'll ask them the behind-the-scenes truths we all want to know. I'll reach out to newsmakers, celebrities, athletes, and ordinary individuals who were there during some of the biggest events of our time. Together, we will hear the story behind the story. So let's get started. This is The Edge of It All. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Edge of It All podcast. Appreciate everybody tuning in today. Another episode where we'll go behind the scenes with a fantastic guest, get you some things you've never heard before about some really timely subjects. Today is a great one. Today's episode of the Edge of It All podcast is brought to you by Discount Tires. Tired of driving around on those flat tires or tires that need air? Don't worry. Discount Tires in Sherman Oaks, California has you covered. They've been around for over 40 years, specializing in servicing vehicles and selling tires, all the while making customer service their priority. Multi-point inspections, including brakes and factory maintenance, to ensure that your car is running like a dream. Plus, if you mention the Edge of It All podcast, you'll score a free alignment check, brake inspection, or on-air check. Who knew saving money could be so easy? So why not give your car the love it deserves? Head on down to Discount Tires today and join their family and score a freebie today just by mentioning the Edge of It All podcast. With that, we turn our attention to our guest on this episode of the Edge of It All. She's a Primetime Emmy nominated director, showrunner. She's been on such notable works as Oprah's Masterclass, NBC's Making It with Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman, major shows across all networks, Netflix, MTV, ESPN, VH1, Apple Plus, you name it, you can find some of her work there. And her latest project is just fantastic. The critically acclaimed project Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. And we welcome Annetta Marion to the show. Annetta, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Trey. Thank you so much for being here. I'm thrilled to be here to spend some time with you and talk a little bit.
Yeah, and it's been a crazy time for you, I'm sure. I mean, the success you've had and now this Michael J. Fox movie and the attention it's drawn. I watched it, full disclosure, watched it 2 days. Yes, watched it 2 days ago. And the range of emotions that I felt, from inspiration and admiration to sadness, was just this wide range of things I'm not sure I expected to feel. Did you feel those in making it? Do you go through that? Are you allowed to feel that as you're producing and making this film?
Absolutely. There were, as you said, watching the movie, there's always tears. There's tears of joy and there's tears of sadness and there's tears. And there definitely were those same kind of tears during the making of the movie. We worked with Michael Fox and his family and his team for over 2 years, and they are really some of the best humans I've ever met. His whole team, his whole side of things, and was just such a great opportunity to get to know them as much as we were able to. And that's just such a fortunate. I feel so honored to be just whatever part of the endeavor I had in telling his story and making him so happy because he loves the movie. Oh my goodness.
That matters, right?
It matters so much.
Yeah.
We're so happy he loves the movie.
We really got a glimpse of what his life is like. It was really, for me, watching it in a kind of a permission to come in and see what he goes through on a day-to-day basis in living with Parkinson's disease. What was your goal in taking this project on? I mean, other than being successful, when you know you're going to make this and you're working with someone in the condition he has, is it just to tell? Is it as simple as saying, I want to tell his story?
I think it is that simple and also not that simple. it is as simple as, of course, we want to tell Michael's story in Michael's words and tell it like Michael would tell it. This is a collaboration with him. We're not parachuting in and forcing anything. But it also is, it's important to realize that his story is far more than his Parkinson's diagnosis. His life is far more than his Parkinson's diagnosis. I mean, he's in his 60s now, and he was diagnosed late, early onset, so late 20s. That's how, I mean, he's been a successful artist and and all of those things, with Parkinson's, and successful family man, and all those different things. So it's really about his life, because his life has been multifaceted and, successful and hard and, amazing and devastating, like all of our lives. So it's a way to, sort of, with how much we all love him, it's a way into talking about the real things that real people feel and face in every real life. Each one of us has that deep and broad and challenging and thrilling of a life. This is just an opportunity to kind of go deep, because he's also a celebrity we love and feel like we know.
Well, he is certainly easy to like, love as well. And a lot of us grew up with the different characters that he played. So this movie, it's the real person. And sometimes you wonder how the real person, you compare it to the characters you've watched them play. And sometimes with him, it was this wholesome kid in some roles. And I watched the movie and I found myself almost drawn to that side of him. Yeah, there was the real side of him that was cussing one moment and picking himself up off the ground, telling about breaking a bone because he couldn't walk. But there was like this magnet of almost taking me back to a place where I had seen him the first time. Have you gotten that reaction from a lot of people?
Yes. And I want to say, I definitely feel that greatly.
Yeah.
I definitely, child of the 80s, knew Michael, knew his movies, knew Family Ties and all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't a fan. I wasn't like a crazy fan, because I worked nights. I didn't really get to watch television and things like that. So, I was sort of definitely aware of him, but, just not a super fan. But you don't need to be a super fan to make a movie. But getting to know him in the making of the movie, I am now a super fan, because he is as charming in real life as you want him to be, just knowing his, public persona. He is just that funny. There's always, you could just look in his eyes and you can see he's like waiting he's got a zinger, he's got something, and, he's got something to say. So, and my favorite character of his is his dastardly lawyer character on The Good Wife.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that character because it's so played against what we all know, what the world knows is the Michael J. Fox life, right? And that was just mercenary and effective. And he must have had a ball doing that, because it just was, evil's kind of the wrong word, but
no, I get it though.
Along that path, definitely different than, Boy Next Door, American Hero sort of a thing. But they're all him. They're all Michael.
Sure. How did this project or this movie come to be? We see the post, we see the finished product, but somewhere somebody came up with an idea and said, we want to do this and we want to do it on Michael Fox. Mm-hmm. How does that come to be?
Well, I came on board probably a year into Davis and Concordia, starting this project and talking to Michael, engaging his interests and all that kind of stuff. So I can tell you the story that Davis has told about the beginning of everything, since I wasn't there. But so basically, Davis and Michael met when they were both in Martha's Vineyard, and they have a connection through Davis's wife, Elizabeth Shue, who played Michael Fox's girlfriend in a couple of the movies. So there was just already like everybody knew who everybody was, kind of a thing.
Weird connection there already.
Yeah. and they all summer in the vineyard, so there's the connection there. And they also, the favorite movie Davis had done before this one of mine is called It Might Get Loud, about the Edge and the guitarists and all that kind of stuff. And Michael, of course, loves guitars, so there was a lot of like just kind of common ground and things like that. And so I think it was about a year of just making, doing the deals and making sure everybody was on board and what that looked like and final cut and all that stuff. And then I came on board probably a year after that. And then it's been 2 years since then to actually make the movie. Get the money in hand, into production, into post, and, into finishing, and now the festival run.
Is it different making films and making things like this, whether you call it a documentary? I mean, it says still a Michael Fox movie, so I'm not sure the terminology I'm using is correct. But in this one, you're going and you're getting clips from his old shows or his old movies. Is that a totally different? And I know you've had experience in both, in making shows and in doing things, for example, with Oprah's masterclass. How different is that for you to have to incorporate in and even go get clips and images and things that you may need permission for or something like that?
So the archival process, like, using other films and TV and music and, newscasts, broadcasts, whatever, using those sorts of elements it's a pretty typical thing in, whether you're just doing a straight documentary, which is interviews and talking heads and barricade footage, watching someone around their house or whatever. So that's a pretty normal thing. So I've done a lot of that in my life, and never have seen it used to the extent and the style that was used in the Michael Fox movie. And, and as Davis has said a million times, that's really, a testament to our editor, Michael Hart, because that was, basically his idea. And because we were just so lucky to have so many movies and so many episodes of so many TV shows, it was possible to actually approach this movie that way, on a different subject with less archival available, maybe not so much. I don't know, never tried it until this movie. But, to me, I don't really differentiate between scripted and hybrid, which is scripted and documentary, or documentary, which is just interviews and archival and things like that. To me, it's all just about storytelling. And story, to me, comes from characters. So at the beginning of the day, not the end of the beginning of the day, it starts with people, right? The characters, whether they're real people or they're scripted characters, the actors, starts there. And then from there, the characters bring the story. And then it's really about, and what best way can this story be told? What's the best way for me to tell this story? Because, 1,000 people will tell the same story 1,000 different ways. And that's the beauty of, not being worried about someone else stealing your ideas, because they can't. They might be able to steal something on paper, but what you'd make is not on paper because it's you, Did I answer your question?
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And the interesting part of that is, as you mentioned, telling a story, and this show's called The Edge of It All, and kind of the line behind that is the story behind the story. So the link there, I think, is the same. Is you're trying to tell a story. In this case, we're talking to you. We want to tell your story, and you're working with Michael Fox. You're trying to tell his story. It's kind of that common thread all the way through. And I think that's what we find fascinating, is we love people's stories.
Yeah. And I also think that that's inherent to being human, right? Like, the best way that we can communicate from like one human to another is to tell that, and tell whatever you want to impart. You're telling that, instead of just being like a bullet list, telling it in a story. I mean, there are studies shown that children learn better that way. Like, that's just like who we are as human beings. So the quicker we just know that and harness that as a tool for peace and love and kindness and all the things that we are missing, or want to see more of, the better, because it's just, we're humans. Stories are our jam. We should just know that and maximize on that, I think. Stories are my jam.
Absolutely. I love that. Stories are my jam. That should be like on a t-shirt or a hat or something like that.
Well, if you sell it, I just want a small franchise fee.
That's all.
That, Trey?
That's not asking too much. I think that's justified in this case. One of the before we move on from the Michael Fox movie, and again, I think Apple Plus is where I watched it. It was on Apple. I encourage everyone to go watch it. It's a great watch. Emotionally brings you in, and I just can't stress enough for everybody to get out there and watch it.
Can I just make one more plug?
Do your thing.
If you can, see it in the theater.
Okay, even better.
It's a big 80s movie with a big score. You know, if you can see it in a theater with the sound and the speakers and the size and all of that, do that. And if you can't, of course, Apple Plus.
There you go. In watching it, he made no bones or did not try to hide the challenges his condition presented, not just in life, in the filming and making of this project. There were moments I distinctly remember where he would say, hold on a minute, I'm kind of crashing here, or I need to take my medicine, give me 2 minutes. And the camera didn't break away from that. You got to see him literally kind of, I don't know if transform's the right word, but he kind of gathered himself.
He got on a bus.
Yeah, exactly. The question I have is, in making it, how much did that play in? Because you've got to accommodate or make concessions to the condition because it's very real. So what challenges did that present in terms of just making the film?
Well, I'll get to you. I'll answer your question in 1 second. I just wanted to say one thing beforehand, because if you haven't seen the movie yet, Michael getting on the bus, you're not going to understand what that means. So we're not going to tell you.
Don't tell him.
You have to watch the movie and see it for yourself. So I just wanted to clarify that, because you and I know what that means.
We do.
But, and we're not telling anybody.
Not another soul. Not till they watch it.
So that's that. I want to clarify that. And secondly, in any kind of long-term shoot, which are generally documentaries, we shot over almost 2 years. That's a long time. So the schedule inherently is flexible and has lots of time built in for many reasons, including just scheduling reasons. Michael Fox has got a busy schedule. Davis Guggenheim has a busy schedule. You know what I mean? The kids have a busy schedule. Tracy Pollan has a busy schedule. So always the schedule is laid out. So there's tons of flexibility. So his health conditions or situations didn't impact us negatively at all. Yeah, because we already kind of had that time sort of built in for taking a break and rest and that sort of thing, which you would do for anybody. It's not just a Parkinson's patient or a Michael Fox thing. That's what you would do for anyone who you want to be on camera for that long.
This show, again, being the story behind the story, what's something we don't know about making that film with him, or anything about this entire project? Tell us something that we might find interesting or that we don't know.
Oh my God, Trey, I have so many things. You don't have enough time, so I'm just gonna tell you some of my favorites.
All right.
First of all, I have one story and 2 challenges. So this is a challenge for you, Trey, as well, because you might know the answers to this, maybe you don't. So I challenge anyone to, if you've already watched the movie or you're going to watch the movie, did you notice the DeLorean?
Yes.
If you haven't, you need to go back and watch. Number 1. Number 2, there is a shot of real Michael Fox running like a crazy person as a little kid. Do you remember that shot?
I do remember.
Okay, you remember that one. All right, so you got 1 out of 2. Woohoo! So anyway, I'd lay that challenge down because those are just like two of my favorite moments. And I just, want to say that out loud. And then the story I want to tell is something that I've been on hundreds of movie and TV show sets in my life, like hundreds, if not thousands, and whatever. And this is something that I'd never seen before. So we shot our scripted unit in Vancouver, which Michael's from Burnaby, which is a suburb of Vancouver, and our stage was actually in Burnaby, literally 10 minutes from where Michael grew up. Kind of wasn't planned, but the serendipity of that, I mean, you've got to be made out of stone not to feel wonderful about it, right?
Absolutely.
So the last day of the scripted shoot, Michael's mom and his brother and the brother's wife came and hung out with us on set, got to see some things shoot, some scenes shoot. And as a surprise to the crew, we only told department heads this because we wanted it to be a surprise. That day, we had organized for this like movie theater size screen to be in the stage. And at the top of the day, there's always a safety meeting where like the AEDs calls everyone together and says, okay, this is what's happening for the day. Keep your eye about this, about safety, your eye about that, about safety. It's a safety meeting. It's just to like make sure everyone is on the same page. Everyone knows where to be aware of things. It's a normal thing. So everyone's always gathered together at the beginning of the day, even if just for like a heartbeat of time.
Gotcha.
So in addition to the safety meeting, which is normal, Michael Fox zoomed in on that giant movie screen. And we had a microphone there set up so the crew could talk to him. And because it was a surprise and people didn't know, we'd gathered everyone around. And like when Michael ended up on that screen, I mean, people were in tears.
Oh, wow.
People were just so moved that and he was zooming in to tell everyone his appreciation and his love and his, just how much it meant for him to have this story made and his story told and have all of us tell his story. And it was one just of like love and appreciation from Michael Fox to the entire team. And I knew it was going to be a big deal, but it was so much bigger of a deal in real life. Like my knees were shaking and I was, it was so emotional.
That's fantastic.
And I think super really rewarding to all the people who were working so hard on the movie because we didn't have enough money. We were, this scrappy little movie with huge dreams. So we were able to do it because of a lot of the love the local people in Burnaby in Canada gave to us. And that was a moment where Michael could thank them.
Special. Obviously, it meant a lot to you. I mean, we just talked about it, and I can see the emotion and you thinking back about it. And it worked. I mean, the success and everything about this movie has been incredible. Again, everybody get out there and see it. Go to the theater if you can't, Apple Plus. I want to ask you two other questions. And as I kind of look at this and, this part of what you've done in your career, and I look back at other things. First of all, how was it working with Oprah? I have to ask that. Everybody has this image of people, and you kind of just want to say, no, seriously, how was that?
Well, I worked with her for pretty much 10 years straight, which was all 6 seasons of Oprah's Masterclass, and also I directed a special called Oprah Goes to Broadway, The Color Purple. So it was a good decade, and honestly, I loved working with her because there was no BS. Like you had to have your act together. There was no.
She didn't play.
There was no like wasting time, suffering fools, and that's like I said. I'm just a nerd. I'm just like a preparer. Even if I throw it all away in the moment, I definitely have. That's just like my process. So. The fact that she just demanded that, or she would maybe just walk away from you and then you don't get what you need from Oprah. So the stakes are pretty high. Yes. So and she was, always saw her, nice, kind to people, but like business, she's got a lot of things going on. You're one of probably 20 things she's doing that day. And you better have your act together, get her in, get her out. She's going to be nice and grateful, and she's just going to move on. I mean, I loved that about her. She was all business. She was mostly business.
Well, a lot of that, and the reason I ask you that is because these other aspects of your career, and it's been so successful. I mean, the shows you've done, you've won numerous awards, NAACP Image Awards. I think you list over 80 hours of TV credits. I mean, I could name stuff. Dead Reckoning, A Crime to Remember. I have two daughters, Nicki Minaj, My Time Again. They relate to that. How do you measure? We just talked about success, but how do you measure success?
Great question. And to me, it's like a 3-pronged stool, right? It's the characters in the story, because story is, I don't say king, I say queen. Story is queen in my world. So the story has to be, I have to be the right one to tell that story. Because a story can be a great story, and I'm like, I might not be the right one. I'm not the right director for everything. Like, I'm the right director for the things that I'm the right director for, or producer. And that's not everything. And that's not a bad thing. Like, you don't connect with it if you don't get up without an alarm because this is what you want to do with your life, with your day. You should be doing something else, So the story. And then it's the people, like, who are your coworkers going to be? Because it is just as hard to make a movie with bad people as it is to make a movie with good people. So err on the side of good people.
Good people.
Good people. And that's, I've got a whole laundry list of that stuff. And then lastly, money. Like, nothing is worse than being a part of something where you have, and everyone has champagne dreams and like a beer bottle budget, right?
That's the one I'm on. That's the one I'm on. Just so we're clear.
And there certainly are, like, all the tricks we have to, make it look more like that champagne budget. But I'm a freaking superstar when it comes to that stuff. Like, that's just one of my superpowers. At the same time, you can't have nothing and get to where you want to go where you want to go. So you just have to have it. So when I say money or budget, it's more about, it's not like a dollar amount, and it's not really like a fee I'm making. Do we have enough to pull off what we have promised? And that's an entirely different thing than, like, fighting for my wage or my fee or whatever. So it's those three. Everything else washes out, in my opinion. I think a small number of people in a room can overcome any obstacle as long as everybody wants to. If a small number of people in a room can't, it's because somebody in that room wants it to fail.
Wow, really?
That's just my,
Yeah, everybody pulling in the same direction.
Yeah, just pulling in the same direction, and the small number of people is key, because the larger the number of people gets, the larger the number gets, the more complicated things are, but consensus and a way forward and that sort of thing. But and the idea is to kind of jump into that family that's going to be pulling in the same direction. It does not mean you're going to be agreeing all the time.
Sure.
I'm not looking for that, because I'm, I live in the real world, but at the same time, simply harnessed in the right direction. We're making the same movie, even if, there's a whole lot of swings within that same movie. We've got to be making the same one. Otherwise, it's a nightmare, and life's too short.
We talked a lot about where you are. How about where you've been? I mean, you were selling, and correct me if I'm wrong, potholders door to door as a kid, through working in high school and waiting tables in college. all the way to maybe where you make your first thing that wasn't supposed to be a documentary or a film. But I'm kind of looking back and when she's here now, how did she get here?
Oh my God.
So
Yeah,
you
it
can
was.
jump in that whole life story wherever you want that I just laid out.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And Trey, there's been no plan ever my entire life except to survive. So that I was in survival mode for a really long time, until, the long story short, I was in high school, was interested in the arts. Um, Senior in high school, I kind of looked around where I grew up and was like, maybe I shouldn't go to art school. Maybe I should go to school to make some money, because
Pennsylvania, correct? That's
Pennsylvania,
where you
Western
were. Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I went to my guidance counselor and I'm like, what should I do? And she said, you should be a computer engineer. And I said, sure. And that's all the thought that went into it, because I had no idea what else to do. I was the first one on both sides of my family to go to college. I just had no idea. So I went to school to be an engineer, got my engineering degree, was working as an engineer, but my life was sort of like, my engineering was a job. It wasn't like, I hadn't found my passion. My passion was just like not dying. My passion was like surviving. My passion was just like live another day.
Yeah, move forward.
Yeah, just, and then I accidentally made my first film and I fell in love hard. Like, I fell in love for the first time and I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about when they're talking about their passion, when they find their passion. Because it was like a body incident. Like, it was like, it was everything. So then my company was paying for my master's degree, so I stuck around for another 4 months or so, to graduate with that master's degree that I didn't pay for, which was a relief. And then I quit my job and I started over, and I had quit my job because of that first film that I directed, not having any idea how hard it was going to be to work as a director, I didn't even know the difference between film and video. Like, I knew nothing. And, then kind of started working my way up, on the producing side, because, that's how you can get paid.
Right.
And I've always done that, all the while I was directing my own work. And then in 2011, I was on a show where, I wouldn't say I've had the opportunity to direct. I refused to come back for season 2 unless they let me direct.
Could be an ultimatum.
Absolutely. So it was that step so I'd always been directing, but like my own work. So that was my step into directing professionally, when I was like, yeah, you want my show running prowess? Well, guess what? This is what I want.
There you go.
And they said yes at the end of the day. And so that's what got me to the DGA and directing more. And I'm forever grateful.
Would you consider that your big break? I mean, that period, or not? I mean, because, I look at that and I think, well, was the big break finding your passion in doing it in the first place?
So many big breaks. I mean, I think finding my passion was a big break. I went to AFI, has a program called the Directing Workshop for Women, which I did, which was also a big break for me. That was a while ago. I think, when I said, this is what I want to stay on for season 2, when they said yes, definitely another break. I'm currently doing a DGA episodic television director mentorship program, where I'm being mentored, which has also been a big break, because that was a really competitive program to get into. My magic wand scenario in terms of my career is to direct scripted TV shows. So that's a big break for me. And I hope will be the last obstacle before that starts, the last step in that path and that journey.
One of the things you mentioned had to do with kind of your work on the behalf of women. And you're very interested in being a leader in that role. And you're working with the Focus on Women Committee. I think it was New York Women in Film and TV Board you've been associated with. When you look at all of this and the things we've talked about, films and success and Michael Fox and all that, what part does that play for you? What do you see as your role there?
Oh, my goodness. First of all, I think it's imperative that not one segment of the population gets to tell the stories of the entire population. I think it's imperative that all of humankind shares in what stories are being told and who is telling them. And the best way to do that is to make sure that the opportunities to tell stories is not just a segment of our population, it's everybody. So where everyone gets the opportunity. Mm-hmm. Because I didn't even know directing was a job.
Until you stumbled into it.
Exactly. You know what I mean? And until we see ourselves, and my God, there's been a million studies done that, the person, the director behind whatever it is, changes what is made. And I think that's super important in terms of fairness and parity and equity and, in all of humanity. I feel like if the cure for cancer is in that young girl's brain who was never taught to read because she was having kids by the time she was 11, humanity suffers. We all suffer when all the gifts that we all have aren't given the same light of day. And that's the most important thing to me, that, it's not about gifting anything. Diversity and parity and inclusion and all of that is about excellence. Because if we all don't have that same opportunity, some excellence will die on the vine.
Yeah. And
I think excellence, I think everyone and everything should be given a chance. And if it doesn't work because of the quality or whatever, great. This isn't about gifting anything. This is about giving all excellence and everybody, everything, the same kind of light and air to possibly grow.
We all make mistakes in whatever field we choose to go into. You're in a tough business. A lot of big dreams get dashed to a lot of people, for a lot of people. Can you look at mistakes or a mistake that maybe you made that you learned from that wound up being a plus for you?
Again, we're getting back to how much time do you have, Trey? So sorry.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
If one comes to mind, that's the one we want.
One does come to mind that really cemented in that one leg of the stool that I sit on, which is the people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think when someone tells you who they are, mm-hmm. which they always do, listen to them.
Okay.
And when you've got a bump or a red flag or anything, even if it's the smallest little whisper, follow that through to the end. Because if you don't, you're going to be following it through much later in the process, and that's going to be a lot messier.
And a lot harder.
You're just way more pregnant then.
Can't relate to that, but I get it. I get what you're saying.
Use your imagination, Trey.
I can do that.
Yeah. So I think it's picking your projects And also, here's one thing that I learned much later in life, and learn how to say no, thank you with a big smile as soon as you can in your career. No, thanks. Thanks for thinking of me. Call me again. But to say no, thank you. That's like a really key. As a freelancer, I was just like, oh, I have to work. I'm never going to work again, whatever. And then you grow up and realize that doesn't actually happen. It's okay to freelance, and it's okay not to.
It's a lot easier to say yes.
It's a lot easier to say yes, but you have to think about, it took me a long time to think about me too.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was I think, girls in particular, we're not socialized to think about ourselves. We're socialized to take care of everyone else. And I definitely had to get over that. But now, you know what? I'm so over it. It's fine.
Keep seeing these T-shirts again. I'm so over it.
We'll go into business. I got
That's
a lot.
Right. I wanted to ask you, but before we let you go today, and again, we really appreciate you, Annetta Marion, coming on with us on the edge of it all. Personally, for you personally, I understand you have quite the taste for what I would call adventure. Racing sailboats, jumping out of planes, scuba diving, bungee jumps, surfed around the world. By the way, I'm waiting on you to say one of the things that I could check a box to. I can't check a box to any of those things. Maybe this interview is a commentary on what I haven't done. But tell me a little bit about that and that side of you, because I think back again to where you came from and where you are and how you didn't know where you were headed, but you jumped in. And this kind of daredevil side of you, is that kind of a metaphor for your entire life?
Oh my goodness, Trey, I've never thought about that. That's a fantastic question. I think that's a good observation. I mean, I think what you've hit on is, and I think what has helped me forever is I know I'm brave. I know I don't scare easily. And I know even if I've jumped and I've fallen flat in the quicksand, I have faith that I'm going to get out of it. And I must have not had all that when I was little, but it definitely, I had it by the time I was a teenager. That's for sure.
Well, you're certainly making the most of it and taking advantage of it. How's that?
Hey, you know what? If we don't, who else is gonna for us?
Truth.
Up to us.
Absolutely true.
But
Before we let you go,
one question though.
Yeah.
You said what was the one commonality we had? You said there was one thing that you might have tried on my laundry list.
No, I said we had none.
Trying to kill myself.
I said we had none.
Got it.
I've never been that guy. Honestly, jumping into the podcast world, maybe that's it.
Okay, there we go. It's always something.
But I've never jumped out of a plane, never done any of that stuff. It intrigues me, I have to say. And I think maybe if I just, like you said, jumped in that first time, the exhilarating part of it, I don't want to use the word addiction, but becomes a part of who you are. And so it was just fascinating to me because I looked at your life story and your ability to jump and to jump in without fear. And it struck me that these things you talk about doing in your personal life seem to be in that same theme.
It's a great observation. But I'll say one thing though. I'm always afraid. I am never fearless. I am always afraid. But I think what my life experience has taught me, and also just being an improv performer. So even though you're afraid, I've worked my afraid muscle so much that now when I'm afraid, I don't seize up. I can think, I can pivot, I'm fluid because I've learned to live in times of panic a lot. And my body knows I'm not going to die, which is maybe a terrible thing to admit, but it's kind of true. You know what I mean? Like if you have enough practice at it, you can be terrified and yet still come on and have a great conversation with you because I know this is going to be super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm nervous because I'm a human being, but I'm also, I know it's going to be fun and and I count on it, and it always is.
Before we let you go, where do you want everybody to follow you, continue to see what you're up to?
So you can find me everywhere. So my social media handle is Annetta LM. So the way I look at it, and I think it's not case sensitive, but just in case it is, it's capital A N-N-E-T-T-A, then capital L, capital M. So it's just like my name, Annetta, my middle name, my last name initials. So that's where I am on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm Annetta Marion on LinkedIn, Facebook. If you just everywhere. Google my name, my website comes up. All my emails on there. Like I'm very easy to find.
And we talked about, the Michael Fox movie that's out. Anything else you want to talk about that you're working on or that's coming out, or a project that will be coming out that we need to be on the lookout for?
So I directed another short film this fall, a scripted short called Communion. So I'm in post on that, and hopefully, let's just say it'll be out this year. I don't want to give myself too many deadlines.
Okay.
But I'm really excited about that. That was super fun. And my first movie with one actor, my first movie with a script that had no words.
Oh, wow.
And my second movie that's a horror movie. So we'll see.
Well, you are all over you've got it covered.
I'm trying, my friend.
To horror movies. We love it. Annetta, we can't thank you enough for coming on the show. It's been a blast. And again, everybody, get out there, go to the theater, see the Michael Fox movie. If you can't, stream it at home on Apple. But we appreciate you taking the time to be with us and sharing your story. I really appreciate you coming on. And continued success to you. We'll be watching.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. Annetta Marion, everyone. Appreciate her coming on the show. And a big, big thank you to our sponsor, Discount Tires, for making this show possible. Remember, get over there. You can get a freebie. Just mention the Edge of It All podcast name. Appreciate everybody for tuning in to the Edge of It All. You can find this show anywhere you get your podcast, including UBN Go. That's United Broadcast Network Go. Please like, follow, subscribe on all the platforms. Again, thank you to our special guest, Annetta Marion, for coming on the show, sharing her story of rising to the top of the film-making business. Be on the lookout for the next episode of The Edge of It All, the story behind the story. There's a new episode every 2 weeks. That's a new one every 2 weeks with inside scoop you have never heard before. Thanks for listening, everyone. Till next time.